Hello makers, Athel Artistry here again with the second part of the video series talking about creating a sewable, flexible component out of Lumin's foam clay that you can sew directly into your garment. As you can see, I'm still working on Mysterio behind me from Spider-Man Far From Home, and in the last video we talked about casting and embedding mesh inside of our foam to create a sturdy yet flexible sewable component. This video we're going to learn how to now paint that and finish it off. We're going to end up with this final product. That's what we're aiming for. As you can see, it looks really nice and sturdy, sewed straight into the fabric, and it flexes extremely nice without cracking to the paint. So let's get started. So the first step in the process is to cut away the excess around our component that we don't want. And the nice thing about embedding the mesh in the foam is that there is a nice bond there. If you follow my previous tutorial, that the mesh won't peel away, and the foam layer should not peel away if compacted properly. So here we go. Here's our cut piece that we're gonna paint. And honestly, the nice thing about the leather paint is that right on the foam you don't really need to prime it, which is actually a really nice property. There's less time, less materials you can use, and honestly I'm just going to paint right directly onto the foam. And we're going to get about 4 to 5 layers of the leather paint. So it will take a little bit of time because you need to let it properly dry in between layers, etc., etc. But yeah, it literally directly on, no priming necessary. You can prime it. There are flexible primers you can get out there like Flex Bond, etc., etc. But if you're in a pinch, it's not necessary to prime it before using the leather paint. Just treat it essentially like leather. You can paint directly on it without primer. Alright, here we go. We have about 2 layers on right now, so we just need like 2 more layers to achieve that really nice opaque effect. And once again, no primer necessary. We're just gonna do a couple more quick layers, so bear with me. So we have all of the layers now properly cured and dried, so we're ready to sew it directly onto our fabric, just like in the previous video. And as a reminder, I do like to use my zipper foot for this process because I want to get really nice and close into the grooves of my mold. And also, secondly, I like to have just a little bit of Vaseline on hand because sometimes a painted component, the paint sometimes likes to stick to the zipper foot, and so I just like to add a little bit of lubricant in between my foot and the component, which won't damage the paint if done very like a conservative layer. So let's get started. Alright, so we got that sewn on really nicely with pretty good ease, actually. Alright, so let's take one last look at the sewable component that we just finished and painted. It's sewed really nice underneath the machine foot with just that little bit of lubrication, because sometimes the latex paint, unless properly sealed, can be ever so slightly tacky. And let me give you a close-up look at the leather paint in action. So the nice thing about leather paint and the latex properties of it, you can bend the foam very nicely. Once again, Lumin's foam clay is not brittle in the way that other foam clays can be. Some friends have had problems with other foam clays cracking and being brittle when fully cured. Lumin's foam clay is pretty amazing in the fact that fully cured, I can bend it, I can move it multiple times, and it's not breaking, even with the stitching on it, which once again, the mesh is super helpful with that. And the leather paint also is super economical in the way that you don't necessarily have to prime it to paint directly on the foam in the way that you would leather, such as boots, gloves, etc., etc. You can prime it, not necessary. There are also many ways to prime and paint foam. This is just one way because of the uniqueness of this project and the way that I'm sewing it directly into fabric, and I need it to bend later on in the process. Huge shout out lastly to Arda Wigs for providing the Lumin's foam clay for this project, and Punish Props Academy for helping to inspire me in using various painting techniques for foam, etc., etc. So the next video, we're going to start on the armor for Mysterio, as you can see behind me. The next video, we're going to work with the bevel cutter, the beveled rods and things like that, and the Lumin's hard light foam sheets. So this is actually going to be the big part of the foam process. So stay tuned.